Konnichiwa, everyone. Today is a holiday in Japan known as Tanabate. It's one of the cultural holidays. I'm not too familiar with the details. Apparently you write your wishes down on a paper and then you pray at the shrines. But that's not the point of today's video. Today's video is about family, honor, rules, and rice. And in America, those things don't really go together. Food is just food. In the West, nobody really gives too much effort about the conditions of food, or where it comes from, or how it's grown. And it's an interesting concept, because today, it's not really like the last video. Today is more of a story with a heavy lesson. And my life stems from this lesson, not me personally, but my father. In today's story, we're going to be talking about the three major gods and the one that could have been. In Shinto belief, there are three main deities. Amaterasu no Okami, the sun goddess. Tsukuyomi no Okami, the moon god. Susanoo no Okami, the god of storms. And Ukemochi no Okami. And this one, not too many people are familiar with, unless you read into the lore. And what's interesting about today, and most Shinto stories always revolve around Amaterasu and Susanoo. But today is more about Ukemochi no Okami and Tsukuyomi. Now, Ukemochi no Okami is the food god, food goddess, I should say. And the food goddess, she's quite interesting, because she doesn't just spawn food out of nowhere. No, she becomes a field of rice, and she spits out rice in huge quantities. She was really popular with people, with humans and Okame all the same. She would bring food. She would just make food appear. She would become a body of water, and she would spit out fish. Or she would become an orchard and just spit out fruit. And this sounds great until you get into the details of Shinto do's and don'ts, the unwritten rules, the taboos of the culture. And this is a culture in Japan today, and it's all about not taking food out of your mouth. And I have tried very, 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 very hard to keep this rule going to me, so that way I don't offend anybody. It's one thing when you grow up in a culture and you just know what's expected. And then there's wanting to become a part of a culture that you heavily respect. And that's the interesting thing about today's story is Ukemochi no Okami wasn't doing anything wrong. That's just her godly ability, her Okami basically duty, if I should say. Just as Amaterasu brings the sun up, and Tsukuyomi is the moon god, and Susanoo's kind of the loose cannon, who's kind of the rebel of the group. He controls storms. He's a great sword fighter. He has plenty of stories on his own, and I'll definitely get to those in a future video. But in Shinto, it's quite interesting because it used to be that day and night were one and the same, because Tsukuyomi no Okami and Amaterasu no Okami were married. And the sun and moon were at the same point. But here's where the story takes a turn. Amaterasu decides, I'm going to throw a huge party, and I'm going to invite all the good deities. Just luxury party. And so she invites everyone, and to show the host that respect, Ukemochi no Okami decides, hey, I'm gonna make food appear. I'm gonna get this party all the good stuff: sake, rice, sushi, all the good stuff. And so she starts spitting up all the food, and she starts making quantities at a godly scale. And the point of bringing up cultural taboo is that Tsukuyomi sees this, and he's never seen this before, and he gets furious, because he's basically, if you're a Dungeons and Dragon player, he is a lawful good, and lawful good can be downright evil in the right context. And he gets furious. He doesn't care the details, and he doesn't care about what is considered right or wrong. So he takes his sword and he cuts Ukemochi no Okami right into, kills her on the spot. He doesn't think twice about it. Well, this upsets his wife very badly, and she is the highest deity in the Shinto belief. She's the most powerful of the gods, and she holds the celestial plane. So she's furious. But she's not going to kill another deity to make amends. No, she turns to her husband and says, "Begone, for you are now an evil deity. We are no longer together. You have no place in the celestial plane." And in doing this, day and night are now different. They are now separate, because he is no longer able to live in the celestial plane. And what I mean by honor about this story is quite interesting, and why I say that it has to do a lot with my father. You can want to do the right things, but unless you look at the context at hand, you can drive your family away very easily. Tsukuyomi in my book is not evil. He's kind of an asshole, and he's by the book. He wants to be honorable. He wants to be a deity that's feared, respected, loved, all in the same mindset. But the problem with this is, he doesn't stop to look at the bigger picture in his deeds, in his misdeeds. So, since that fateful day, there is no food god, and there is no union of day and night. It's all separate. But these stories aren't literal, and nor should anybody take them as literal. Stories are there to help guide us. That's part of the fundamentals of Buddhism, is stories are just tools in which we learn. And it's never meant to be taken any one belief seriously. But these stories are meant that we should look at our deeds. What do we do? Even if they're under good intentions, should we just back off the reins sometimes? Sometimes we can drive our loved ones away just by trying too hard. And that's what happened to a lot of things in my personal life. But these stories are never meant to be divisive or ruling. These stories are meant to be helpful and open one's eyes to different possibilities. That was the whole point of the first episode. Let's get our minds in the right spot. Look at a rice field and go, somebody grew that. That doesn't just happen. Anybody who's grown rice knows this. Let's all work to try to step out of our own first-person view and see things from a different angle. It never hurts. That's the whole point of these stories, and let's just try and make each day just that much better to ourselves and to others. This is Hajime Travels.